Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
Vince Coglianese.
Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 4:06 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, the president of the Washington Times joins us. Chris Dolan will be here. He's an inauguration historian. We'll get ready for President Trump's inauguration, and we'll look back at history and see. Anyone else have any cold inaugurations? Anybody else move it all indoors? Anybody else go to an arena to celebrate the parade? Oh, yeah, Ronald Reagan did that. Yeah, we'll talk to Chris Dolan about it. It's all ahead. And then Mark Krikorian joins us at 5 o'clock. We talk the border with him and whether or not Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem can get it under control. She had her confirmation hearing today in the United States Senate. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Joe Biden is leaving office as ridiculously as he's been in office. More pardons today for drug offenses, thousands of those. He came out today and declared that he just ratified an amendment to the Constitution without having the ability to do that at all. He's just like, I ratified an amendment. And then, we had, what's her face? Oh, yeah, Kamala Harris. How could I forget her name? Kamala Harris came out today, and she said, this is wonderful. The amendment's ratified. It's not ratified. Aren't you a lawyer? Weren't you an attorney at one point? Who are you people? As they declare that the so-called Equal Rights Amendment is now the law of the land. It's not the law of the land. It's not the law of the land. But they just declare it. They think they can do that. They also announced today, as I was talking about with Dan Schneider, that the TikTok ban, they're not going to enforce it. You know, the thing that the 9-0 Supreme Court upheld takes effect Sunday. They'll still be in office. President Biden will still be in office. Not going to enforce it. Not going to enforce it Monday morning. He said, I'm done being president. I'll leave it all at Trump going forward. And wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be actually nice if that was the actual statement? I'm done. I'm done being president. I'm not doing any more presidenting. I'm going to leave it all to Trump, who shows up Monday afternoon. But no, that's not what he's doing. Aren't you? Anybody else just waiting for the big pardons to drop in the 11th hour? Anybody? Liz Cheney or Mark Milley or Adam Schiff, old pencil neck, watermelon head himself. Any of these things? Are they going to get pardons? What about a pardon for Dr. Fauci? Is that coming too? It sure feels like it. I can feel it in the air. It's that calm before the storm feeling. You're like, oh no, this awful thing is coming. I can see it on the radar. I know what's coming. These pardons for everybody. By the way, if he does that, I am here to tell you that you are witnessing the biggest cover-up in presidential history. The single biggest cover-up in the history of the presidency. And I think Joe Biden's basically already achieved that through the 11-year pardon of Hunter Biden. But pardoning everybody else, yeah, that'll tell you a lot. That'll tell you a lot more about something you already knew. But why are you giving pardons to people if they didn't commit crimes? What's that about? Joe Biden went on Larry O'Donnell's show yesterday on MSNBC. Larry did at one point. I think Larry said on air that he's a full-blown socialist, communist, something like that, years ago. But yeah, he's a lefty on MSNBC, and it's one of the only safe spaces that the White House could find to put Joe Biden on. And so they put him on last night, and here's what it sounded like.
Look, if the decision is made that the multi-billionaires, the super wealthy, the wealthiest people in the world, begin to control all the apparatuses from the media to the economy.
Oh, my gosh.
And who do I get to fight back for me?
What?
Who do I get to... Mm-hmm. I mean, look, I think everybody deserves just a shot. Not a guarantee, just a shot.
What is that guy, a Trump surrogate? Are you listening to this? If the decision is made that the multi-billionaires, the super wealthy, the wealthiest people in the world begin running all of our institutions, who's going to represent me? Joe Biden said those words out loud last night as if he's not describing the current situation in his party. The left has a stranglehold, has had a stranglehold on so many of our meaningful institutions. How are the schools doing? At the bottom. Oh, that's right. Strangled by the left. How's academic excellence in the schools? Not good. Not good. What are third grade literacy levels doing? Not good. Things aren't good. What about violence in the schools? Yeah, getting worse. What are kids learning? They're learning left-wing propaganda, especially the bluer the district, the more awful the situation. Where you're teaching kids to keep secrets from their parents about their sex lives. What? That's the left controlling this. And not for the benefit of these kids. And that's just out the gate. Actually, out the gate is all of the abortion the left has been pushing. That's the gate. That's where they're pushing 1 million baby deaths a year. But the left has control of all of the meaningful institutions on these questions. The media, the ability to have this dominance over the narrative by virtue of control of all of these legacy news outlets, that's been going on forever. In fact, the emergence of independent social media has been a deep breath of fresh air in the face of all that. So there's that. You know, what's happening to the United States military? The military was often seen as sort of the last holdout, the last group of resistors of the left's tyranny. And in fact, the military has been made worse as a result of the left's interference with it. Made it less capable, less prepared for the conflicts ahead. Harder to recruit the fine young men and women we need to populate the ranks. The left did that. What about in corporate America? Well, first of all of the disproportionate support among so-called billionaires and corporations was going to the left. Went to the left, to Joe Biden, to Kamala Harris, and all of the people associated with that party, not to the right. The right, as it stands now, is a party of the common man, the party of the middle class, the party increasingly, certainly, of the lower class or the working class. Take your pick as you describe it. But what Joe Biden is advancing is a fiction. It's projection. It's an inversion. It's a perfect inversion of the truth. Look what the big asset managers have been doing with retirement funds against the will of the people who have their money invested there. BlackRock, these gigantic asset managers who have been advancing climate change dogma, that kind of garbage. Wall Street firms and asset managers have been advancing these crazy transgender ideologies, which are only hurting people, not helping them. Exploiting them for profit. It's cruel. So that's what the left represents. And so Biden gets to sit there with Larry O'Donnell, and the two of them can sit there and pretend like they're on the side of the little guy, when in fact they're the boot stamping on the little guy's face over and over and over again. I don't think it's working anymore, that kind of lie. Not for most Americans. Joe Biden said last night that, red states should be more grateful to him.
And look, the other thing, Lawrence, I got a lot of criticism, understandably. We've invested more in red states than blue states.
That's in this book. That's in this report.
Well, for two reasons. One, red states really screwed up in terms of the way they handle their economy and the way they handle manufacturing, the way they handle access to supply chains.
How dare that piece of garbage say that? Red states really screwed up in the way they handled their economy and manufacturing. Oh, really? Was it Republicans? Was it conservatives? Was it Republican voters? Was it working class people who sold us out to like the World Trade Organization and to China? Who was that, by the way? Oh, that was Biden. Biden was in the United States Senate. Biden was the guy selling us out. And he turns around and he says, no, actually, it's Republican voters. It's red states that screwed us. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Those are the states that bore the brunt of your cruelty. As Joe Biden lays blame for the sorry state of the country at the feet of the people who took the hardest hits. What a disgusting old man. Absolutely disgusting. What a pathetic exit for this guy. Really disgraceful. He also talks to Larry O'Donnell about the emerging deal between Israel and Hamas, only developing now because of President Trump's involvement in all of this. Biden talked about Benjamin Netanyahu, who he has not hidden his disdain for Bibi Netanyahu. He does not like this guy.
With that, did you have reason to believe that the prime minister was delaying agreement with a ceasefire for his own politics and with the political knowledge that a ceasefire would help your reelection campaign or Vice President Harris's presidential campaign?
No, I don't think it had to do with it to help our campaign versus Trump. I don't think that was his calculus.
You hear what Larry O'Donnell's doing there? He's basically trying to set the frame and inviting Joe Biden to take a whack at it that Israel interfered in our election. That's Larry O'Donnell's frame. Because so they've moved on from Russia. Now they want to say Israel interfered in the election. Don't you think, President Biden? Don't you think that Israel interfered in our election? And then he wants to go a step further because what they'll do from there is they want to build out a whole cinematic universe on MSNBC based on this and say not only did they interfere, but Trump coordinated with Israel to interfere in our election and to rob Joe Biden, who, by the way, did such a good job and on the merits deserved it back. Were it not for Israel's interference in our election and Donald Trump's collusion with them, were it not for that, Joe Biden would be back for a second glorious term. Biden, I don't know, either he was too dumb to pick up what Larry O'Donnell was laying down, trying to breathe some life into that conspiracy theory, or he was like, that's too crazy for me, Larry. I can't even subscribe to that. All right, one more for you. Joe Biden, Larry O'Donnell last night talking about whether or not Joe Biden has any regrets. Biden says he regrets that stimulus checks had gone out at one point and that President Trump's name appeared on them.
Did it cross your mind to put your name on the checks?
This is let me just emphasize something for a moment. This is a huge deal on the left. They think that the reason Joe Biden lost the election, one of the big reasons, is that they didn't write Joe Biden's name on all of the checks that went out when he became president and he drove inflation up rampantly. Like, that would have saved him. Now, of course, what that would have done is actually placed blame even more sincerely, more directly on Joe Biden for creating our inflation problems.
Did it cross your mind to put your name on the checks?
Only in that I kept being here from other people. The president sent me a check for $7,500. The president did it. Why aren't you helping me? Well, it was a bill we did, but anyway. It did cross my...
that piece of it where he says, President sent me this money for so much money. What do you say, $7,500? And why didn't you do that? He's just making up numbers. $7,500. What is he talking about? Did you really say $7,500? This is a criticism that the left has reserved for black voters. This came up when President Obama was campaigning as well. They kept referring to this. So, basically, that black voters were single-issue voters. They were only concerned about the one check that they got from Trump. Why didn't they get a check from Biden? This is the way the left views this. They think that their loss among black voters had to do with whose signature was on which checks.
The president did it. Why aren't you helping me? Well, it was a bill we did, but anyway. It did cross my mind, but what the mistake we made was, I think I made, was not getting our allies to acknowledge that the Democrats did this.
What?
So, for example, build a new $1 billion bridge over a river. We'll call it the Democratic Bridge, figuratively speaking. Talk about who put it together. Let people know that this was something the Democrats did. That it was done.
This is deranged. He's suggesting that people don't know that Democrats spent their tax dollars, including on, when he says a bridge over a river, is he talking about the Francis Scott Key Bridge? Is that what he's trying to refer to? I think he is. And he says, why can't we call it the Democrat Bridge? Because it's called the Key Bridge, you idiot. What? Why would we call it the Democrat Bridge? When have we ever done that? There's a lot of crap that's named after politicians. That's true. And especially if you're alive, nothing should be named after you. We should name stuff after you're gone. That's like, you shouldn't be involved in the naming of your own building or bridge or whatever or structure. It should be a way to commemorate people who've done great things in the past. Anyway. But here's Biden being like, we should have called it the Democrat Bridge because people were too stupid to know that we deserve credit and therefore another term in office?
That this was something the Democrats did, that it was done by the party. That's different than me writing a check and me signing it.
It was done by the party. You hear that? That's the way he views things.
Check and saying, I did it. I'm not a very good huckster. I mean, that wasn't a stupid thing for him to do.
What?
It helped him a lot. And it undermined our ability to convince people that we were the ones that were getting this to them. And so, but I don't think, ironically, I almost spent too much time on the policy, not enough time on the politics.
Again, as always, and Biden is conveying this in his own senile way, but this is the way the left talks about these things. Most people on the left that are involved in professional politics have convinced themselves that their problem was not the mayhem they caused, but the messaging to prevent you from seeing it. That's what they really think happened. They think they lost because they didn't brand the chaos well enough. And so therefore they lost. I hope they stick with this because I think what's happened is Americans have mostly opened their eyes to especially the realities that affect them personally, and for that reason have punished Democrats. I hope that continues. And these Democrats stick with that. It's your message. It's not your horrific policies. Yeah, good job, guys. 4:23 now.
WMAL is live from Capitol Hill Monday for the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, sponsored by Young America's Foundation.
All right. Let's go to the phones. I've got Chris calling in from Port Clinton, Ohio on line 3. Hello, Chris. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing good. What's on your mind?
Hey, I mean, I guess they can start naming stuff after him anyways. Brain dead as he is pretty much considered dead, right?
So we can start naming stuff after Biden now. That'd be and he won't know. He won't know.
And then on the other hand, they don't need to name stuff after themselves because we already know all the dirty stuff that they've done. Right?
I think so. I'm not sure I follow you. I don't.
It's pretty evident that the American people know all the dirty stuff that the Democrats have done to us.
Yeah, or at least the stuff that we're aware of is just so awful. I can't imagine the stuff we don't know. You're right about that, Chris. There's no question. Thank you, Chris, for the call. But that's funny though. Biden. We should name stuff.
Trump.
Trump. Trump's great. I'm glad you got that in there. I agree with you. Wholeheartedly. Biden. Although they started naming stuff after Biden years ago. There's a rest stop named after Joe Biden. The Joe Biden rest stop. Isn't that what it's called? That is kind of appropriate. Hey, what are we going to name Joe Biden after? What's going to get the Joe Biden name? How about this place where the urinals are almost never clean? Oh, my goodness. The Washington Times president, Chris Dolan, will be with us in just a moment. We'll talk to him about inauguration history. We've got one coming Monday.
WMAL, making sense of the markets, because generational wealth doesn't build itself. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Noon to you. It's 4:36 here at News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Mark Krikorian joins us from the Center for Immigration Studies. We'll talk to him about Kristi Noem's confirmation, Governor Noem's confirmation hearing today, soon to be Secretary Noem. When she runs the Department of Homeland Security, Mark will react to what she had to say about getting our borders under control. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. We are now counting down in hours until a presidential inauguration Monday. President Trump announcing today, making the move to push that what should have been an outdoor event indoors now. It's going to be headed indoors given the very frigid temperatures expected on Monday. President Trump saying on Truth Social that he wants to do that for the safety of those people who would otherwise attend and be subjected to that weather. So there's a frantic rush going on right now. I've seen images from inside of the Capitol Rotunda. They're literally building a stage inside of the Rotunda right now to prepare for Monday's events. And I guarantee you congressional offices are really – they've got a lot of headaches going on right now trying to figure out who gets the tickets and how do we get them in, because that's a much smaller thing to have to handle. Here to discuss the inaugurations in the past as well, is the great Chris Dolan. He's the president of the Washington Times. He's joining me now at the Navy Memorial. We're doing the show live from the Navy Memorial today. Chris, good to see you, sir.
Yeah, great to be here with you, Vince.
The inauguration coming up, this is not the first time we've had an indoor inauguration. It's rare, and usually it is weather-related.
Right. I'm not familiar with the indoor. I haven't been here for one of those. I guess Reagan, we were talking before, was the last one.
Yeah.
But I feel for the people who were descending on this town to partake outside.
Yeah.
Right now, trying to even get to this building with all the work going on outside, all
That's
the barricades, everything that's going on. I just feel it's unfortunate for the people who are coming here to really see it live.
Sure.
Now, obviously, they can stand outside and watch on the screens, but it's different than being out on the lawn at Congress, looking up and seeing a new president.
Yes.
and the transfer of power. It's an exciting thing to be participating.
Very exciting. And, and I think for a lot of Americans, well, one, just at its core, it's kind of cool to see a president of the United States. That's neat at its base. But we're living in such a unique moment now where you certainly have, a lot of division in the country. And a lot of people have placed their hope in President Trump specifically to kind of turn things around and have fought for the outcome that we're going to witness come Monday, which is that he swears in again as president of the United States. So a lot of excitement about this presidency. They had I was seeing reports of 250,000 ticketed guests for the outdoor inauguration. That's not the way it's going to be conducted, but that's fine. I think for a lot of Trump supporters, they look at it and they go, whatever, just keep him safe, get him sworn in, and get him about the business of the American people.
Right. Now, there's definitely a contrast from the first time he was inaugurated when the mainstream media was really going after him and had already begun and had been going on for months. But with the popular vote win,
yeah,
and all the issues that we've been facing over the last 4 years, there is a palpable sense of optimism, even with people who you engage with who are not moderate or conservative, they're far left. So
right.
They don't reveal it a lot, but people are concerned about the crime. Like, we know why he was able to pull off this victory, and a lot of it had to do with policies that have put American cities in a position that people are not very comfortable with, besides all the pocketbook issues.
The cost of living, crime, the state of our border, all of the illegal immigration. There's a lot of people who've woken up to the misery of it all and said, well, wait a second, I preferred my life under Trump. So that's how we got here for sure. These inaugural addresses, they typically, as I understand it, they kind of hit like kind of the big themes of we're a great country, we're going to do great things together. That's usually this. I mean, President Biden kind of ludicrously gave a speech about how he was going to unify the country. How'd that turn out when he did his inaugural address? What do you expect out of President Trump? This is a second inaugural, so not his first crack at it. Probably informs that he wants to get right down to business. What do you expect out of this one?
I always look at inauguration different than State of the Union. State of the Union really is about what's going on in this country. I think inauguration is more a spectacle for the world, to reveal our power, to remind people that we transfer power peacefully, that we still have these principles that are undergirding us in religion, freedom of speech, issues that in a lot of countries are not, and it's spreading right now. So, a lot of this to me is, when you look back through inaugurations, you would look at Reagan and say, when Reagan took office in 1981, he talked about how government wasn't the answer. Government's the problem. Like, he was about individuals, independent freedom, which is really what makes us different.
Yeah.
Is that the government's really here to aid us. It's not to be the answer. And you see the evolution of it. I think we're back to that with Trump. I think Reagan's strength through power, Trump's strength through power.
Yes.
People want people in that position, and we see what happened with the hostages. Yeah. The minute Trump started talking about it, there was a change of heart and things were done, and basically the same deal that was on the table for months is accepted, right? So I think that I really do see a correlation between the philosophy and why people are responding to Trump, because they have respect for the straight, direct, honest approach to a lot of things that they believe in their small towns.
Well,
I mean, he's more mainstream than anybody.
And like Reagan, he's got an optimistic vision of the country. He thinks highly of the people who populate it. He believes in our greatness, is unashamed to say it. That's an attitude that Ronald Reagan had. And so as we kind of approach this inauguration, you can't help but notice a lot of the parallels between the two of them. Also, realistically, they were both pretty famous outside of politics before they arrived at their political perches. So kind of neat to see the parallels between two guys who are very revered among Republicans, and rightfully so.
And I think they're both following very weak presidents, right? So
yeah.
you had Reagan following Carter, and looking back through some of the speeches when I was doing recently last week, I was looking back at some, and one of the things that caught my attention was Obama. And I don't think I realized it at the time because all the exuberance, and it was it was really hectic here at that time. And but one of the things he hung the whole speech on was remaking America. And I'm not sure that anybody really asked him to remake America. And I think these last 8 years or 12 years minus Trump is the fallout from that, and that's why we're back to Trump. So you have a weak president remaking America. So we're talking about censorship. We want to control by authoritarian measures. We're going to be using our elite people in our party to control businesses and then control people. And I think that's what the part of the rebellion against that is Trump. And when you look at it, to me, it's an anomaly in a speech where it's about unifying a country and holding up to the world as a place that's different, where freedom of religion is accepted, where freedom of speech is the underpinning of it, and where government is about the individual. It's not about the government. It's about protecting your rights. So when that jumped out at me, I feel like the fallout and the people who were with Obama and all the minions that he had and all the young people and all the people in the campaign spread out across this city over the last 12 years. And when I saw the comment from Zuckerberg about how the Biden administration was dealing with Facebook, about you pick up the phone, they're cursing at you, they're telling you what to do, I saw that happen when Obama took office. And I feel like the people who came at that wave changed the demeanor of this town, where you could be collegial, you could discuss things, you could be different parties, and they made it all or nothing, and it kind of carried through. So I'm hoping that these next 4 years help moderate the playing field a little bit because we're neighbors.
Yes,
you talk
that's
to
true.
Your neighbors.
Yes, and Trump himself is fundamentally a moderate person.
Right, exactly.
I mean, he's not kind of the. He's not anything the media has told us broadly that he is, and the voters were able to see through the caricatures, which has been nice. You mentioned States of the Union, which are, of course, very different speeches, more policy-centric, kind of like, here's what I want to accomplish in the year ahead. And the state of our union is strong, of course, always. But one of the things I've noticed through the years about President Trump and big speeches is sometimes he likes to pepper in unusual features, things that nobody expects. And he enjoys the kind of the shock of those moments. Whether it's giving the Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh during a State of the Union address, or calling to someone who a North Korean defector up in the gallery who raises his crutches in the air in celebration that he was able to get out of North Korea, or recognizing Corey Comparator at the Butler rally when he returned with a singing of Ave Maria, just not a dry eye in the room. The guy's good. He knows how to make these big events into something, frankly, unusual. Do you expect unusual moments at all on Monday?
Oh, yeah, you'd have to expect that. Like you just outlined a bunch of reasons. I mean, he is P.T. Barnum. He knows how to get the circus going and get people paying attention, and that's one of his strengths because you use that to get people focused on the issues that matter to you. So when you ask me about what issues are going to be or what do you think the State of the Union, he's definitely going to touch on a couple things. He's going to touch on immigration because, I think he thinks it's the core of why he was elected. How do we fix the situation we've been dealing with for not years but decades? And depending on who you talk to, some of the immigration experts are talking all the way to 84 when we changed policies that has put us in the position that we are now. So with all the social media and everything and technology, as the world's theoretically compressed and everybody's closer and knows more what's going on, I feel like the electorate and people know less than ever before. And, part of what he brings is a global geopolitical perspective that, he's going to be dealing with a lot of hot spots.
Yes, he will.
He's got a lot of issues out there that people need to pay attention to. Asia, Ukraine, how do you deal with Russia? The fact that he's invited all these world leaders to our inauguration.
Yes.
It's a little bit different. It's not the way it happens. He's invited Xi, and the vice president is showing. So some of that to me it shows his awareness of, you can go at China and you go at them as a competitor.
Right.
They're a competitor right now. Now, it could be more down the road, but if you're not aware that you're competing at a very high level, and he seems to be one of the only guys who's taken this position in the last, 20 years that really understands that.
And it seems unpredictability really gives him the battlefield. It allows him to do things that most people in conventional American politics can't get away with.
Right.
Because foreign adversaries can come up with assessments of who you are and how you operate and how to get to you and how to get through you. And it's harder with President Trump because at any moment he's either saying he's going to push the button to go after little rocket man, or he's meeting with Kim Jong-un in Singapore and having a nice time, and they're exchanging letters about what a wonderful time they had together. Meanwhile, what happened in North Korea, nuclear testing went down as a result of those efforts. So he's got a unique style, and people like it. They reflect on what it looked like for 4 years, and they say, man, I like that version of events because the world's become a lot more chaotic. In other words, President Trump is entering into office with a lot to do.
Yeah, I would argue that it's even, we were at the height of the Cold War with Reagan. I would say that right now there are probably, depending on who you talk in the intelligence communities, more dangers that we're facing than ever before. So especially with Syria and our bungling over there over the last 4 years, we have no human intel over there. It's going to be very hard, and that's now the hotbed of all terrorism. So how are we going to deal with it?
Yeah.
It's going to take time to catch up, and we're not there.
Biden has created alliances among our adversaries that have not been either in existence or as quite aligned as we've ever seen. So when you see war games where you see China and Iran and Russia and North Korea, we have North Koreans on the battlefield right now fighting on behalf of the Russians. This all happens on Biden's watch. You're watching America's adversaries all coalesce together in shared purpose, and meanwhile, that's a big problem that President Trump's going to have to face.
Exactly, and I think what you saw with the electorate is that who people want to face it, right? We know what's going on in the Ukraine. As much as the narrative was pushed about he had too cozy a relationship, we know that was all misinformation.
Yeah.
The reality is they know that he's going to be a straight shooter with them. But people who don't necessarily know exactly what he's going to do, like you've mentioned before, he can be out of the box, is very helpful. It makes countries think twice about doing things. And I think that we've just experienced, listen, there's a reason that Russia goes in during Obama, doesn't do anything under Trump, and then goes in under Biden. Crimea and then Ukraine. There's reasons that happened, and I can't think that it's anything other than the fact that they know that they get a much different response with Trump in office.
Yes, and President Trump to Washington, the establishment of Washington's great consternation, has broken all of the rules that they've been setting because those rules we've been playing by have not helped us at all, which is why he's so successful there. Hey, Chris Dolan, president of the Washington Times, it is really nice to see you today. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Vince. Take care.
Of course. All right, it's 4:50 now.
WMAL, making sense of the vote because elections have consequences. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Got a phone call coming in from Joe, Charlotte, North Carolina, line 3. Hello, Joe. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, sir.
Hey, so since we're assessing President Pittle's last 4 years, we need to also remember that Obama and Biden, they gave Iran $180 billion, and Biden gave Iran millions of dollars back in September of last year.
Right.
That started Iran on their conquest to cause so much aggravation, war, and death in the Middle East.
Yes.
When you think about it, Biden is no more than another Mao Zedong, just a little bit less as far as the millions of people he's responsible for killing.
It's just awful. And you're right about, they've really empowered Iran. All that money they gave them. The other piece is that they have not been enforcing the sanctions against their oil exports. So China is buying 90% of Iran's oil and filling their terror coffers with lots of cash. And you can thank Joe Biden for that. That's all. And so that whole terror regime is financed basically because Joe Biden lets it happen and gave away money to help make it happen. It is disgraceful, Joe. You're right about that.
I'm not. I have no idea why the media, the Rush Limbaughs, you guys, and I love your show too, Vince. But why you didn't crucify Biden and Obama over giving them money that started these wars in the Middle East?
Why? Well, this is not the first time I've had this discussion, Joe. I've talked about this a lot. You want me to say it more?
Yeah, I thought it was a great time to bring it up and add a little bit of salt to the wound of Biden and his revisionism.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. No shortage of people, especially on this station. If you listen to WMAL morning to night, you're going to hear the very assessment I just made. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. You're right about that. That's exactly right. All right, hold on. But the broader media, to hell with them. They stink at this. They cover it up. Coming up, we are going to talk with Mark Krikorian about the state of our border. And Kristi Noem's confirmation hearing today in the United States Senate. She would like to be the next DHS secretary. That's what President Trump wants. How'd she do? Mark weighs in.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.